The blonde whose looks and fame would ensure that the name Marilyn Monroe would be forever remembered as one of Hollywood's biggest stars was born as brunette Norma Jean. Norma Jean Mortensen was born June 1, 1926, in Los Angeles, California. She never met her birth father and wanted a father figure so badly that she let herself believe it was Clark Gable due to the resemblance between a photograph of her actual father and the actor. She often made up fantasies to make her life seem more exciting and extravagant, but researchers tend to believe that her father was actually Edward Mortensen, her mother Gladys's husband at the time. Another story of Norma Jean's was that Stanley Gifford was her father, since he was Gladys's lover when the marriage was bad.
Gladys was placed in a mental institution as she developed psychiatric problems that ran in the family. Norma Jean, only a young girl at the time, was then forced to spend the majority of her childhood switching between 11 foster homes, an orphan home, and living with her appointed guardian and mother's best friend. During her time spent in the foster homes, she was sexually assaulted and claims to have been raped at age 11. When her mother was taken into custody, she lived with her guardian, Grace McKee Goddard, who greatly influenced Norma Jean by taking her to salons and movies as treats. She started Norma Jean on her obsession to become just like the actress Jean Harlow, and even at a young age, Norma Jean set herself up on a path to becoming successful and famous.
When she matured into a teenager, she received attention from boys and liked it very much. She had a passion for clothes, hair, and makeup. She was obsessed with her appearance. She dropped out of high school when she was only 15 years old, and the Goddards then decided to move but could not afford to bring Norma Jean with them. In order to avoid more foster homes, Grace Goddard arranged a marriage for Norma Jean with their neighbor, Joe Doherty, at the tender age of 16.
Norma Jean continued to struggle with her yearning to fill the empty space with a father figure, and even called Doherty Daddy. He was a merchant marine and was sent away on duty to the South Pacific. Norma Jean began to work in a munitions factory and was discovered by a photographer, David Conover, who scored her a successful job as a model. Norma Jean devoured the attention and decided to pursue a career in acting as well. Wanting a more appealing stage name, Norma Jean used her grandmother's last name and opened up a new chapter in her life as Marilyn Monroe. She dyed her hair blonde and transformed fully into the star she is now well known as. It started when a hairstylist called her hair brown and kinky while styling it for a shampoo ad. Marilyn then asked if anything could be done to make her look better. The product used in her hair gave it a reddish blonde tint, which Marilyn liked so much she wanted to dye it even lighter. Also, Marilyn's weight fluctuated often, especially when she was stressed about an upcoming film. The most she ever weighed was 140 pounds. However, her average weight was about 120 pounds. Marilyn would gain the weight from compulsively eating, but lose it when she grew self-conscious of the way she looked, and the constant weight changes created the need for multiples of the same costume.
When Doherty returned home, she was forced to pick between him and an acting career. She decided to choose the latter, and the couple divorced in 1946, the same year she signed a contract with 20th Century Fox. Her acting career really took off in the 50s after receiving a lot of attention from her part in the Asphalt Jungle. She continued to act in more movies and eventually attracted crowds of people, building up a reputation as one of Hollywood's most famous actresses. After watching Marilyn star in Niagara, people began seeing her as a beautiful woman and sex object. This new point of view on her was increased after she starred in the musical Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, in which she sang Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend in 1953.
She was a much-admired celebrity to both men and women. "I can be anyone they want me to be," Marilyn once said. She had numerous different attitudes based on who she was married to, the mood she was in, and what the public wanted to see, possibly due to her rough childhood. She constantly changed and contradicted herself time and time again.
Surprisingly, Marilyn Monroe was extremely self-conscious about her acting skills, and would grow so nervous that she would become physically ill. She was infamous for not remembering her lines or marks, and was extremely difficult to work with as she required vast amounts of attention and was hardly ever satisfied. She would become depressed and turn to sleeping pills and other forms of drugs to keep herself going. She often showed up to rehearsals late or not at all. This caused her to be released from several signings, including Something's Got to Give.
Marilyn Monroe then eloped with Joe DiMaggio, a baseball player, in 1954. Their marriage was short-lived, and 2 years later she planned to marry the director of The Misfits, a movie she starred in alongside co-star Clark Gable. This playwright and director by the name of Arthur Miller became Marilyn's third husband. They married after his divorce and her movie Bus Stop. The marriage lasted 5 years, from 1956 to 1961.
Marilyn was known for her countless affairs, especially with important men such as Frank Sinatra, but will be most remembered for her Kennedy affair. Marilyn was struggling with her heavy addictions to barbiturates and alcohol, and her emotional instability when she began seeing the Kennedy brothers, John F., also known as Jack, and Robert. They met at parties attended by important government figures and Hollywood's biggest stars during the end of 1961 and the beginning of 1962. Though rumored to have affairs with both brothers at around the same period of time, Marilyn fell dangerously in love with Jack, who was already known for cheating on his wife Jackie multiple times with this sort of glamorous Hollywood women he was attracted to. He would secretly meet Marilyn while he was traveling, and they even went away for a weekend together in Palm Springs. Whereas she was just another mistress to him, Marilyn became obsessed and even dreamed of one day becoming his first lady. She was only setting herself up for a much greater fall. Rumors were quickly spread about their affair, and though the two were somewhat secretive, many were suspicious and the FBI began keeping a watch on her.
On May 19th of 1962, the president had held a birthday gala, which Jackie did not attend, but at which Marilyn sang a happy birthday tribute. Lust for the president oozed out of her while she sang, and afterwards he thanked her for singing in such a sweet and wholesome way. Jackie became increasingly upset with their interactions and threatened to divorce Jack if he let it go on. Before the scandal could ruin his chance at re-election, Jack ended it with Marilyn, as he only ever saw her as another prize he had won. He took compromising photos of her to use as blackmail to ensure that she would have to keep his secret. He told her she had never been First Lady material anyway, and Marilyn was heartbroken and driven mad by this.
Throughout the drama, Marilyn had been seeing a psychiatrist, Dr. Greenson, who had been worried that the Kennedys would eventually destroy her. She had already been accidentally overdosing on sleeping pills and often falling unconscious. She even had to have Eunice Murray step in as a live-in companion. Dr. Greenson's fears proved to be correct as she fell into a period of deep depression. However, it didn't last all that long as she became involved with numerous upcoming films, most of which she was unable to complete due to her death. Marilyn was rehired to star in Something's Got to Give and planned to remarry baseball player Joe DiMaggio on August 8th of that same year, but Marilyn died before either of these exciting events could happen.
Marilyn Monroe died at the young age of 36. She was found in her home on her bed with a bottle of empty sleeping pills in the night between August 4th and 5th of 1962. Some thought that the star may have been murdered, but her death is mainly said to have been a suicidal drug overdose. DiMaggio arranged her funeral and claimed that everyone had only hurt her, so only close friends and family were invited. Marilyn once told DiMaggio that William Powell promised to send flowers to Jean Harlow every week while she was dying. He promised to do the same, and for more than 20 years, Marilyn's grave received flowers weekly.
Though Marilyn Monroe and her affairs both were and will still remain controversial, the legacy of one of the most famous women of the 20th century will live on. Marilyn was not only a model, actress, and singer, but an early feminist, symbol, and American icon. Her 30 films brought America from strict and traditional purist ideas and began a sexual revolution. She presented herself as a sex object, not only to be rebellious, but because she knew it gave her power over men. Marilyn Monroe was beautiful, talented, and determined to make sure her name and face would go down in history, whatever it took. We are all of us stars, and we deserve to twinkle.